Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me for Where I'm From number 35 with Ronit Plank. This is take two. Earlier today, Ronit and I recorded um, the first take. That's what take two implies. And it was a wild ride of technical difficulties. And when I attempted it, Instagram continued the trend of not liking what we were putting down, not picking up what we were putting down. And hello,
Hi.
I was just explaining that
I heard, I heard you said it was a wild ride of technical difficulties.
it was a wild ride because I just dropped out for part of it, and then Roni went completely mute
Yeah, I
for part
couldn't
of it.
be heard. So I'm
Uh-huh.
not using these this time. I'm
Okay.
tossing them away. And we're just going to wing it this way. We're going to just pray for maybe it's like the solstice situation. Hey, Elizabeth's
Yeah,
here.
Elizabeth made this one. I'm glad you're here, Elizabeth. I feel lucky I get to talk to Ronit twice in one day.
I feel the same way. I know. I feel like we could just go on and on.
We could. I'm grateful this honestly happened with you as opposed to some people where I'd be like, "Oh God, I'm so sorry. I don't
You
want to
mean
ask you to
you
do it
mean
again."
someone you feel like you have to impress versus me who
Yeah, or at least like have a modicum of like professionalism. I'm like,
professionalism, right?
she'll understand.
Yeah, I do understand. And actually, I was feeling bad. I went to go meet a friend for lunch after that happened, and I couldn't shake it off. I felt like I'd failed or something. And I'm not putting that on you. I meant like I was like, what's going on with me? I guess because I wasn't happy about the technical problem on my part, and I was annoyed. My son said to me, well, Mom, why don't you just shut the phone call off that you were getting, just reject it, so it's kind of your fault. And then my because
Oh
I kind of complained about my dad calling during the thing, and he apologized because I said that's our urgency gene in our family where we were like, I have to get in touch right now. And so then my sister said to, nope, that was a Freudian slip. My daughter said to my husband, Mom's being a brat, because she's complaining about her dad, like about him calling during our live. So anyway, anyone who's watching this has no idea what I'm talking about, except that my kids speak truth to me.
no, kids are good at that.
Yeah.
If we let them, they do.
Yeah, they do.
For
They feel,
sure.
well, they feel comfortable saying it to me. So
Good. Me too, I think. Um, so Ronit,
yeah,
would you like to read your poem?
I really
You got a
would.
dress rehearsal.
Let's do it. Let's do this. It's going to be seamless. Okay.
Yes, of course.
I feel a little like canned now though, like Allison. I'm from blah 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 blah. I'm from blah 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 blah. From blah blah. No, I'm kidding. Okay, sorry. Okay, I'm gonna do it.
I
Ready?
like that version though. That gives we need to do an improv
Okay, let me
version
get
of
all
where I'm from.
serious. Ready?
Hmm.
Okay. This is my version of where I'm from. I'm from a scratchy sofa, striped in 5 different shades of brown, and hotel towels my father brought home in our suitcases. From Aquanet, Raid Roach Spray, and bringing Dad coffee in the mornings. 2 teaspoons Folgers, 2 teaspoons sugar, a splash of cream. I am from bigger than the first apartment, darker and dirtier compared to the rental house, half a world away from the desert where I was born, and a bunch of places I left but have never been back to. I am from bare walls, quiet adults, and my sister's doll naked baby I thought was so ugly in its bald and big-eyed newborn bird way, but wish we still had. From sand in a sandbox and in my mouth, the crunch of minerals and salt, a lesson even then that I can digest hard things, take them in until they become a part of me. I am from cereal in front of the TV after school and doing my homework before making us dinner. From Grandpa Lou and Grandma Jean, the ones that did less harm than the other set who I won't name here. From an uncle sent away to an institution when my mother was 7, but got to see sometimes on Sundays. I am from there are 2 kinds of people in the world, and if you don't want to be said no to, don't ask. from World War II veterans and divorce, generational and Jewish trauma, from children who didn't get to be adults, from children who didn't get to be kids and adults who didn't know how to hold on to love, so dreamt of another time and place, just not this one. From Chinese restaurants on Sunday, bagels with schmears, rugelach, and, before she left, my mother's gingery tofu stir fries and homemade manicotti bursting with ricotta. I am from breast cancer claiming Grandma Anita and bone cancer claiming Grandpa Lenny. From a great-grandfather I never met, but have heard about because he was kind to my mother when her mother was not and never could be. From no dolls, no toys, no baby clothes left, but dozens of photo albums I look over again and again to read the faces of a family I hope to understand.
Yay!
I did it!
Yes!
With a couple of errors.
Well, then it didn't
That
seem
happens.
canned. So,
yeah.
Good job not making it seem canned.
Also, good job not going like this. Call back. Right? There's Elizabeth. If you don't want to be said no to, don't ask. My father, he'd say that all the time.
I don't know if anyone ever said that to me, but I definitely internalized that message.
He was like, just go and do the things you want to do. Don't ask. Kind of like, yeah.
And don't risk the no. Like I would just, do it on my own, or it kind of, to me, it kind of ties into that whole I'm fine. It's all fine. We're all fine. It's like, let's not really dig too deep into this. Let's just continue on.
Yes.
So many little things like the hotel towels.
Did you have that?
Yes.
Did you? I had so many towels in our linen closet in Flushing that said S for Sheraton.
Same. Same.
I was like, these are nice.
Yeah. Like, this is a very cool monogram, which would work for me now. My last name's Shelton. But that was not my last name.
Ours was Fine Glass. So definitely not.
Ours was Yester. There was no Y towels available.
But it was funny, too, because my dad would also bring home Lego pads, those long-lined Lego pads. Do we still have those? And he'd be like, oh, there works. Like, I'd be like, where do all these pens and Lego pads come from? And who even wants a Lego pad? I've never liked Lego pads. They're, like, too long and unwieldy for me. I don't appreciate them very much. But we had a whole bunch in our house. And I came to understand later that my dad, he worked for a nonprofit, and he was a writer, and so I guess he could use those supplies at home too. That's necessary. But
I think it's also just kind of the mentality of like
the 80s or now.
Yeah, or no. And also kind of trying to get something from like certainly my father was always working the angles, and like trying to, kind of
What we need, did I freeze?
It was me again.
Okay.
And when it did, I screamed at the phone, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, I was like this. We just need the outtake reel.
Seriously. I'm like, we're just trying to read a poem here.
Is it like Mercury is in retrograde?
I don't think it is. I thought the same thing. I was like, this feels very Mercury retrograde kind of vibes. No.
Yeah, so the taking of the hotel towels. I mean, I have an aunt who will still take rolls off the table in the restaurant and put them in her purse. So,
yeah. I don't know. And my dad, a big one was don't fill up on bread.
Oh, that's funny. We ate as much.
Because you're not paying for the bread. Right. Eat the food we're paying for. Don't fill up on the bread. Like, he was very bottom line oriented.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, but I also ate the food, so he didn't need to worry. I didn't fill up.
Yeah.
What's that?
No, I just ate a lot.
And we talked earlier about how beautiful the eating the sand and how you learned you could digest hard things. And I also ate sand. So
I would eat sand again. I mean, every time I look at sand, I'm like, I've eaten you before.
Hello, old friend.
I'm like, hello, minerally salty friend. No, because I think that, okay, on the surface of it, which I don't know if we talked about before, I love the idea that anything could be edible, or that I was just
Mm.
alone in the sandbox, like playing little, like, like,
Hmm.
this
Me
is like
too.
3 or whatever.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, there's food here. So that was number one. Like, I can eat this. See, I don't need anyone. I can eat this.
Hmm.
But then when I started to think about why this has played in my mind again and again, what's the story? What can I use it for?
Hmm.
I used it in a different poem that I wrote, and then it came up again here because, as I mentioned to you, I was looking for a natural environment element.
Hmm.
And having lived a lot in apartments, my young adulthood and my childhood mostly, aside from a minute in Seattle and in Israel, I didn't have a lot of like flora to,
Hmm.
inform my memories really.
Hmm.
And so the sand came up for me, especially because it was a desert kibbutz. And then the idea that, like, why was it interesting to me to eat that beyond that I liked food? Like, what was the not funny part? Because I'll usually go for the comedy, as fast as I can.
Hmm.
But then I realized, ooh, I can turn this into something that means something else, which is also true about me.
Hmm. Do you think you ate it because it was food? Because I certainly didn't. I just sort of liked the sensation
I
of
like
it.
the sensation. I think I've always enjoyed like the activity of eating and
Hmm.
enjoying
Very
things that
calming.
way. Yeah, and I
I
think
think
that
for
was
me, it
like,
was like a comfort
yeah, this
thing.
is like fun to do. And I
Hmm.
mean,
And sort of
I
not
was
what you're supposed to be doing, which also has
right.
its own
I mean, I was
enjoyment.
hungry. Like I was hungry a lot. I don't know if I had a worm or something, but I was like,
Well, and maybe you weren't getting it because the food was, it was like you got portions, right? At
yeah,
the
I mean, but my
kibbutz.
mom jokes about how they'd have to give me doubles of everything. The other little kids would have, one of something, and
You were very tall,
yeah,
Ronit.
she'd be like, for you, they'd have to keep it coming, in a kind of prideful way, but
Okay,
also
good.
kind of like making fun of me way, which is in my book, of course.
Yes.
But yeah.
So I just love the poem, and we were talking about your uncle when it all went south last time. So I don't know if we want to tempt fate, but
No, no,
I
it's okay.
really
We should, we
was
should.
so fascinated by what you were saying because I think mental illness or developmental disabilities, like they were just nobody talked about them.
Mm.
People were just shipped away,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they were seen as shameful to the family, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
for something they never had anything to do with.
Yes, and
You
I
know,
think, in families, sometimes it's really hard to piece together the truth.
for sure.
You can maybe get impressions from different family members and try to figure out what happened. But
Hmm.
the basic structure of this is that my mom is the middle of 3 children, and her older brother was really difficult to manage and maybe was a little violent too.
Hmm.
And her mother arranged, I don't know how much her father had to do with this, to send him away. He was just too much. Now, did he have something going on that we now recognize as very copable with and
Hmm.
manageable without medicine? I don't know. I know that my mom felt a lot of guilt for that, well, we talked about it. And I think part of it is that, she was safer without him there,
Yeah.
and so there must be some guilt there. But also, they only saw him on Sundays and they'd bring him all this food. So food in my family, at least on that side, on my mom's side, became a very big expression of love.
Hmm.
Her father was the one who just like loved all these delicacies and, deli meats and knishes and all the stuff and the breads. And you just bring it all and feed someone full of love.
Hmm.
And I think, I don't know what happened to him there. I couldn't even tell you how long he was there for, but I
Hmm.
can tell you that he's had a difficult time of it. And I'm sure there were parts of him that really suffered because of his childhood.
Right. Is he still alive?
He is alive, and my mom recently heard from her younger sib. Actually, we were just talking about this yesterday, me and my mom, that he's not doing great. I mean, he's had some cancer as well,
Hmm.
and he's having a very hard time moving right now, and is pretty much chair bound, and has a family, but it's all very. There's a there's a part of my family on this side that I can't. It's weird. It's like not, it doesn't follow the normal paths or linear paths of a family or relationships that you would expect. It's just like murky. Like
Hmm.
it's almost like I don't know the addresses of some of my cousins, even though I've
Hmm.
had them before. I don't keep track. We don't, You know, he was around like 9, I think, Elizabeth, my uncle. He was young, you know. He was
And
like
then how
9.
long was he there? I, of course, just imagined he was there indefinitely because that's what
I
happened to so many
again,
people,
this is the
you
kind of
know?
thing I can't get an answer to.
Right.
And I think my mom has asked her sister for information, and actually my aunt was going there in part to get some more family
Mm.
history from him. But he, you know, there's a whole bunch in that. There's so many stories within that part of my family, and there's I wrote a short story which is going to be part of my collection that's coming out soon, that is based loosely on this part of the
Hmm.
family.
Hmm.
And it's a hard one, and I don't want to cannibalize stuff too much, but
Yeah.
I feel like there's just so many like question marks over there, and how things end up happening to people, and how much is our faults and how much is not our faults, and what can we change and what can we really not ever have the resources for.
Hmm.
So it's sad, because I feel, even though he's made mistakes in his life and he hasn't always been a great parent, I mean, that's an understatement. I've always, you know, and even though I didn't see him that much in my adulthood, I feel bad for him.
Hmm.
You know, I have a lot of, I feel
Compassion.
for him, even though I know how difficult it was to be his child.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah. I was recently having a conversation with someone. We were talking about, kids who are having challenges of various kinds. And um, a friend had taken in a kid, but wants them to go to like boarding school because they don't want them living with them. And I was saying, I get that. Like, it's a gesture. It's a very powerful gesture to take on someone's child, and that you're still trying to. How do you maintain boundaries about your own life and your own family? And I think some people just don't engage with the questions because they make them so uncomfortable. It's like, well, I don't even want to think about that because a good person would do this,
Mm.
and it's like it's very complicated.
I'm so curious, and I know this is like going on a tangent, but why they chose to take this child in the first place, if they were known to them,
Because
if
otherwise they'd go into the system,
yeah, yeah, as a classmate's like friend, like a kid's classmate or something.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, it's a very big thing to take on another life
Yeah.
in your family. It's hard
Hmm.
enough to be a nuclear family,
Hmm.
let alone adding another element in, you know?
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, it's and I think for those of us who grew up in family, and mine was, you know, divorce troubles. There was a lot going on, and for a long time, I was just comfortable with chaos.
Mm.
It was like, oh well, life is chaos. Like you just keep doing stuff, and
Mm.
and then eventually I realized, oh, I don't want chaos all the time. I do actually want to feel safe. I want my children to
Do you
feel
think
safe.
you were leaning into chaos? You were making choices for chaos, or just trying to keep your head above water?
Um, Probably both. But yeah, I definitely, it just was familiar chaos,
Yeah, I think for me, what was familiar was that everything keeps changing, and it took me a while to recognize that certain things had stayed put. It took me a while as an adult to realize, oh, I haven't moved in a while,
Mhm.
or whoa, my kids have traveled with the same group of classmates for years, and I actually know these moms that we started off with in kindergarten. I never had that. You know, even driving, I remember my children in preschool to a class trip to Seattle Center. I was one of the mom drivers in a little, you know, for a bunch of them. I remember thinking, this never happened. We never had a car anyhow, but like my parents weren't going on trips. You know, I remember feeling like I'm entrusted with these souls, like these bodies in my car, but I don't know how to do this. You know, I remember thinking, I've never had this done for me. You
Mhm.
know, I don't know. Like all the mom things were new for me that way. And also, as you know from our earlier conversations, the idea that divorce was inevitable if you got married. That divorce is just, you know, divorce riddles my family.
Mine too.
And yeah, and maybe that was part of the time as well.
It
I know.
definitely was part of the time for sure. There
Yeah,
was definitely more people like because they could finally. It was
yeah,
like this new
yeah.
cultural phenomenon. Um, but I do feel like I went to college and like people had married parents, and I was like, what? Like to me, that was like an exotic flower. I didn't understand it. Like you're still married, and they seem like they like each other. Like what's that about?
Exactly. Totally. Exactly. And yeah, so that took me some time, and now a lot of my kids' friends, their parents are married. You know, there are divorced couples too, but I know this is kind of a funny thing to say, but whenever I am hanging around with my kids and their friends, or they happen to be in the house, and you know, if divorce or separate homes comes up, I just want them to know, you know, I know what that's like. I don't have that right now. You know, right now you're in my home and I'm married and this has been stable for a while,
Mhm.
but I know what it's like to not, I just feel like you have a different understanding when you grew up that way.
I think so. And I think especially for kids, they just assume, like, I think many children might look at me and think, oh, she's always been like this.
Right, exactly. And I always want to say, like, if you look from the outside, you'd say, oh, well, they have such a predictable
Mhm.
family unit. But none of it is lost. I mean, I don't take any of it for
Me
granted.
too.
I'm like,
Every
what is
day I'm like,
this?
whoa.
We
I mean,
look
I never
happy.
expected to be happy
Yeah,
or stable. Those both
yeah,
seem just
no way.
like I just trying to live, like that seemed like you're asking for too much. Don't ask if you don't want to hear no.
That's right. If you don't want to be said no to, don't ask. No, for
Right.
real. La la
Yeah.
la 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 la.
So I
Yeah,
really do feel that same way, Roni. Like I do not take it for granted. I
yeah.
do not assume
And
because I'm married today, I'll be married tomorrow.
no, 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 never. And
You
I
know.
definitely went through a period of time where I felt like I had to make a choice about, was I going to actually give this a go for my heart, or was I going to
Hmm.
phone it in? Was I going to actually have faith and believe that I could make this life work as a partner? Because I knew being alone much better. I knew
Hmm.
being resilient on my own so much
Hmm.
better. And
Hmm.
it took me a lot to, let in some other people and to be vulnerable. And I still will fall back on invulnerability. You know, that's my go-to is like, I'm fine, but I have to always remember to be softer. You know, sometimes I really have to remember.
Hmm. And that asking for help is a good thing. It's not
Yes,
admitting weakness. It's
yes,
actually inviting other people to help you. And,
totally.
that's been
Absolutely.
like, what?
I always feel like the people who knew me in my 20s, I mean, or maybe even yesterday, I don't know. They must be, I want to like apologize. I'm really sorry that I talked your ear off and had so many troubles and that I was so weird and hard to connect with. I mean, maybe I was a good faker. I've been lucky to
Mm,
have good people in my life,
hmm.
but I feel really different from the way I used to be. And it's funny when I wrote this poem because I just, in talking to you about divorce, I didn't even think about, how terrible Sunday nights were.
Hmm.
I'm from Sunday night goodbyes
Hmm.
and Sunday night hellos, where you call the parent the wrong name because you've spent 2 days or 5 days with one of them and now you have to switch gears. That always, where do I belong type of thing. And there's so many things when you write these poems, anyone
Hmm.
who's going to do it or is thinking about it, so much to mine. And it's very interesting where your brain goes and what you decide to spend time on.
Yes. And to me, I feel like I could write, just like we were talking about earlier, you could write a bunch of memoirs. I think you could write a bunch of these poems. You just are doing it from a different vantage
Definitely. And
point.
I like it because for me, it's real permission to go back and to
Mm,
to really delve and to go back in time a little bit, which for me is a little bit more potent.
mm,
I need space and time to reflect back. And I think when I find an area that is full of an impact for me is what I try to write into. I have a lot more fun doing that in the
mhm.
short creative nonfiction I'm doing right now. I'm trying to go back to certain moments that mean a lot, and I find that I have more fun writing those because I have this it propels me to try to capture what it is I'm thinking about.
That sounds wonderful. I
Yeah,
mean, I've said this with you, and I keep saying it. Like, I think the only way I can keep writing is to write the things that are compelling to me, because you never know who your readers are going to be or if you're going to have readers. But if it feels like it's serving me and getting me someplace, then it has it has worth.
yeah, and I really am enjoying that idea of trying to really get to the heart of what it is I'm trying to say. If you keep circling and circling around and you're not totally sure why this is coming up or what you're trying to say, it's a really great feeling to, like, it happened last night because I've been working on this piece. It's like 900 words. And I'm like, ooh, I think I understand something now, because I'm really into thinking about our psyches and it's not just writing for me. I'm like doing probably like self-help, but
Right.
I'm like, why is this coming out at me in this strong way right now? And when I feel that way, I'm so happy, because sometimes writing is such a grind.
Yeah, and I think just for me, I think that's why I'm writing essays, because I feel like that's how I function. That's like how I am in the world. I'm not linear. I can't go from A to B. That's just not how I am. And so
Yeah.
instead of trying to force myself into some container that I've decided is serious, I'm just going to do what feels right to me. And I think that sounds great, Ronit. I love that.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean, it's fun. And like, I don't have that fear around it. Like, don't talk about it or
mhm,
it'll evaporate, because the memory has
mhm.
been lurking in there since I was 17, and I haven't written it. And maybe my daughter is about to turn 17. So maybe it's popping up in my head that way.
Oof,
But also,
17.
yeah, right. I saw in your byline, I wanted to ask you about this, and I may as well do it here on your forum.
Sure.
Shh. Oh, I thought you were saying shh.
I
And I was
said,
like, what? Um, um, sorry, I was about to go on some byline joke. The New York Times essay. What is your New York Times essay? I was
it's the
about to go
tiny
find it.
love. It's about my
Yeah.
relationship with my kid and how
Mhm.
and I don't usually write about my children, but he was very happy to be in the New York Times.
Oh, yeah.
And it's about him and how he is like so authentically himself, and being a
Love
witness
that.
and an advocate of that has changed me.
I missed that one. I'm gonna go find it.
Oh yeah, it's
I'm
just
sorry.
really, he is like, so they both really are. And to be honest, like that is the greatest compliment I could pay a person. And I'm so proud of both of them. Like I don't post about them, I don't brag on
Yeah.
them, because it's just not my relationship to them. But I am so proud of them
Yeah, I
and
think
who
I
they
think what
are.
you said is really important, because I think it's possible to celebrate our children and celebrate our relationship to them, our parenting, what we so are grateful for, without putting them front and center. And
Right.
I also wrote a very short piece about my son. Is it 150 words? And it came out a little while ago, and I didn't like advertise it to him, but I
Mm-hmm.
had included his sister in something very brief last year too. And it's more about my parenting, and I don't
Yeah.
disclose their
Yeah.
personal lives. But I just wrote an article that I'm waiting to hear when it's going to run about. I interviewed some moms and some therapists about the benefits of keeping your kids' life private for your
Mm-hmm.
own relationship with them, and how to celebrate your parenting online and online
Mm.
communities such as this without exposing them too much.
Oh,
So,
that's fascinating.
yeah, I'll
I
tell
love
you when it
that.
comes out, because I've been
Yeah.
working on it for a while, and I finally found a taker. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important. And of course, my daughter, who's almost 17, said, I was talking about it today, and she's like, "What are you talking about, Mom? You post about us all the time." And I was like, she's like,
No,
"Why do you
no,
get so
you
mad?"
don't.
And I said, "I really haven't. Like, I
No.
actually haven't. I don't
Let me
even
send
write."
her some accounts that post about their kids all the time. It's
I
not
think,
yours.
yeah, because even I started to post just a little joke or one liner about
Yeah.
the kids now and then, like, "Oh, they said the funniest thing." And then I
Mm-hmm.
realized they don't need their kids seeing this, their friends seeing this thing
Right.
that they said to me in family time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's there forever. But I digress. I don't know if you wanted to talk more about the
Well,
writing
I think
homework.
we should
Yeah.
probably wrap up, and I should
Yeah.
upload this thing because
Before we
I
lose
am
it.
filled with a little bit of anxiety, like hoping that it will work. But I also want to say that Ronit and I are going to do a memoir chat next week.
Yeah.
Um,
On
and
that day, we decided.
yes, I think it was Tuesday, Monday, one
Yeah,
of
it's that
those.
day next week we're doing.
Um, and if anyone has anything they'd like us to talk about,
Oh yeah, we are taking memoir questions or memoir
mm-hmm.
topics. We should post that, right? I should make a new thing and we'll post it.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd love to answer questions. I'd love to address stuff that comes up for memoirists and memoir readers a lot.
Mm-hmm. But I think writing about, how do we write about, like, how do we center the narrative in ourselves? Because that's something that
Oh yeah,
I'm,
let's do that.
thinking about a lot. Like, yes, being a parent. Love you too,
Love
Elizabeth.
you, Elizabeth.
Um, I'm a parent, I'm a wife, but I don't want to write a book about my kids or my husband.
My
I just
husband
want.
doesn't want me to write a book about him, and my kids don't want me to write a book about them. Yeah.
Understandable. I mean, if my husband wrote a book about me, I would be sort of fascinated, if I'm being honest.
What's going on
Like, what is he? Oh, wow. This is the things he remembers, like I would be so, I'm trying to do an essay with another person where we talk about our memories of each other in a relationship because I am fascinated by the idea of memory, as you know, and I
Yeah.
still need to listen to that podcast of yours, but
Yes.
like how we remember a time and how we process it and what like pops for us of
It's
that
so
time.
interesting.
So, um, I
Thank you
I
for
loved your
having
poem,
me.
Ronit,
Thank
and I
you.
love that we talked twice. And I wish I could post both because we covered different
We did, but that's why you can keep writing memoir forever because we're
things.
always going to come up with different things. Thank you so much for doing this and for having me, and it's
Oh,
been
it's
really
a
fun. I
joy.
love talking with you, and it was a really fun exercise.
I love hearing that. I totally agree. And listening to these poems, per our previous conversation, Ronit made a point about nothing is waste. Nothing is wasted. And that can be what you read or what you view or what you write. And sitting and doing these once a week has been a great exercise for me.
Oh yeah, yeah. There she is, memoir forever. You
Yeah.
better. I really hope you can post this okay, because if not, you might decide never to speak to me again on Instagram.
That's not gonna happen. It'll be like, take three. Here, let's talk about hotel towels. We didn't talk about hotel towels last time.
Right.
Sheridan forever.
Yeah.
Sheridan
Sheridan.
towels.
I know that was the only one really. Yeah.
Mine too.
Yeah.
What's that about?
I don't
These
know.
are fascinating things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's been a joy as always. And I'll see you next week.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Thanks for
Bye.
coming.